Cycle 3, Week 19, Hands-on Science. We are just going to be using the Foundations Guide, page 264. So this quarter we're going to be learning all about probability. So to introduce this idea, let's take a look at a coin. You see a coin has how many sides? 2 sides. We usually call one the heads side because there's an actual face on it. Most coins have the face of someone on one side. And then the other side we call tails, and it might have any kind of picture on it. But we've got the head side and we've got the tail side. So 2 sides. If we wanted to play a game, one of the ways we could figure out who could go first or who can go first is by tossing a coin. Can you think of a time when this actually happens in games? Yeah, like a referee might do it at the beginning of a football game or a basketball game. I think about it with football, you know, the coin toss, and then they get to decide which side they start on or whether they want to kick or receive. So the coin toss is it's supposed to be a fair way of deciding who goes first. Now, why is it fair? Why is a coin toss fair? Because there are 2 choices, right? And there's an even chance of getting either heads or tails. There's the same chance that you would get heads as that you would get tails. So that makes it fair. When there's just 2 choices, then this is a fair way of deciding which choice will be made. So we're going to test this ourselves to see if it's true. So we're going to work in pairs and we're going to flip coins. But first, we're going to use paper and we're going to make a chart. All right, so we want to have heads written at the top and tails. I'm just going to make a nice little T chart here. And then we are going to make tally marks to keep track of it. Okay, so when we make tally marks, we're going to make that little, like little ones almost. And when we get to number 5, we're actually going to cross through it. Okay, so that's 5, and then you start a new set. Okay, and you can go side by side like this if you want. The handy thing about making hash marks like this, or tally marks, is that when you're done, you can count by 5s to count them. And we all know how to skip count by 5s, right? Because we're in CC. 5, 10, 15, 20, and if I had a couple more, 5, 10, 15, 20, 21, 22. So it makes it really easy to count. So I think even our abecedarians can do it that way, okay? So your pair, you guys have coins, and I want you guys to take turns flipping the coin and marking down, is it heads or is it tails, okay? So the correct way to flip a coin is setting it on, you kind of balancing it on your finger, under a thumb, and flipping it up. But if that's too challenging, you can just hold it in your hand and kind of toss it and let it land on the tabletop, okay? We're not launching these across the room. We're just tossing them and seeing where they land, okay? So I got heads that time, so I'm going to make a little tally mark, and then my partner can go, okay? And so then he's going to flip. That time I got tails. And we're going to each do it 6 times for a total of 12 tosses. Got a heads that time. I got another heads. Okay, so you're going to do it 12 times. So let's pretend like we've done all 12 times. Okay, let's just pretend like that's what we got. Now, once you guys have gotten yours, then as a class, you guys can add up how much the whole class got, okay? So your tutor might draw something, class, she might draw this on the board, something very similar, but that just shows the heads and tails of the class. So if we say, we got 10 heads, because 5, 10, right? 5, 10. We got 10 heads, and that pair over there got 8 heads, whatever. We get, let's say, if we have 4 pairs in the class, and we did 12 each, that would be 48 tosses, right? So let's say we got 25 heads and 23 tails. So that is our class total. So that's our class totals that we summed up to get our class results. Now, if your coin landed on heads, would it for sure land on tails the next time, since that's the other choice? Does it always go heads, tails, heads, tails, heads, tails? Does it do that? No, because we all understand that every flip of the coin is independent. And that is why we are usually happy to use a coin to get a chance outcome. If we knew it was going to be every other one, that wouldn't really actually be fair, because you would just know, well, I want the second flip because that's the one that I am asking for, or whatever. So you know that each flip is all by itself. It has the same chance every time you flip it of either being heads or tails. So that's what makes it fair. The mathematical study of this chance is called probability. And each time we flip the coin, our result is called the outcome. Okay, so we've just learned the word independent, which means each coin toss is independent. The result is independent. And the study of this is called probability. And each time we flip the coin, our result is outcome. In the study of probability, we generally refer to desired outcomes, which are the outcomes we want or are interested in, and also then the total outcomes, which is everything that happened. So we may refer to events, which mean an outcome or group of outcomes. So the event of us as a class flipping the coins is our 25 heads and 23 tails. That's our event. But it's also outcomes. Sometimes we use words to describe the chance of something happening, like impossible, unlikely, possible, even chance, likely, or certain. Mathematically, probability is the measure of how likely an outcome is, and is expressed as a number between 0 and 1. So I want to show you this lovely chart down here at the bottom. If you guys look in your foundations guide and tutors, you guys could draw this on your board. This is a really helpful chart. This chart shows a number 0 here at this end and a number 1 at this end. So if we say an event is impossible to happen, so it cannot happen, then we're going to say that has a 0 chance of happening. And then as we go up the line, it's going to get more and more likely. So it says impossible going to unlikely. There's an even chance, so it's right in the middle. A likely chance or a certain chance. If it's certain, we know it's going to happen. It's definite. Okay? So right here you see a picture of coins with 2 sides. So that is an even chance. So that is squarely in the middle of impossible and certain. So probability is the measure of how likely an outcome is and is expressed as a number between 0 and 1. To find the probability of an event, we use a fraction. Okay, it's a special fraction. I'm going to erase this so I can show you this very special fraction. This fraction is our desired outcomes on the top. And then we're going to draw a line right underneath. And on the bottom is our total outcomes. Now, if you're old enough to already be learning about fractions in math, then you'll remember that a fraction, if we have this much of a fraction, and we wanted to say how much this is as a fraction, we would say that is 1 piece, and the whole has 2 pieces, right? So the bottom number tells us how many pieces are in the whole thing, and the top number tells us about just the amount of pieces that we're looking at. So here, with our shaded portion, we're looking at 1 piece when there are 2. So this is the same kind of thing. The bottom number is going to be our total number of outcomes, and the top is our desired number of outcomes. So when we had the heads and tails, when we flipped the coin as a class 48 times, we could say that the probability of getting tails probability would equal, I think I already erased it, but let's say it was 25. So 25 times out of 48, we get tails. And then for heads, I think we had 23 times out of 48, we got heads. So that is our probability. Now with two choices, we should get a 50-50 chance, or 1/2 if we reduced it. For you big kids who know how to reduce fractions, we should get 1 out of 2, which would be half of 48 is 24, right? And so we didn't actually get right on the nose of 24. Do you know how we could get closer to 24? What would we do to bring this number closer? Do you know? We would keep flipping the coin, because the more times you flip, the more outcomes that you have, the closer this number is going to get to perfectly accurate. So whenever we're talking about probability, we're assuming that many outcomes have happened so that this number is most accurate. So the more times we're going to flip the coin, the closer it's going to get to 24. Eventually it will get to 24 solidly because there are so many flips. So let's talk about the probability that the coin could be flipped. Okay, hang on. So the probability that it will be tails is, there's two choices, right? Heads or tails. So the probability that it will be tails is 1. There's only one chance it'll be tails out of 2 chances because there are 2 sides. If it's heads, same thing. The probability, still 2 chances because you got heads or tails, but the chances that it'll be heads is just 1. What are the chances that it will be both heads and tails? We'll flip the coin and the answer will be heads and tails. What are the chances of that? I'm going to write this down. Heads and tails. Can that happen? Nope. So that is 0/2. That is impossible. You cannot get heads and tails at the same time. What are the chances of getting either heads or tails? So this time I'm saying there are 2 choices. There are 2 desired outcomes. I can either get heads or I can get tails. So with 2 desired outcomes and only 2 total outcomes, my fraction, my probability is 2/2. That means 100% of the time I will get either heads or tails. I will always get that. So if we look at our slider here again, this one is impossible. This one is certain. We are certain to get one or the other. And these 2, we have an even chance. So if you want to see for yourself, if we keep flipping a coin, if you have more time in class and you want to see, we can keep flipping a coin and we can keep adding to our partner tally and keep adding to the class tally and see how that number gets closer and closer and closer to actually 1/2 or 24/48 as our probability, because that is what is the probability of getting heads or tails on our coin toss. So remember, probability is about chance and the likelihood of a specific event happening over many outcomes. Our actual results for fewer repetitions often will not match our calculated probability. So if we only do a few, like if I just do 1, I got tails. Does that mean I'm going to get tails every time because I just did it the one time? No, of course not. Of course not. I'm going to need to keep flipping the coin and keep flipping the coin and keep flipping the coin to get a really accurate reading and to get that 1 out of 2 times. All right, I think that is good for week 19.